Record-breaking DDoS, Linux issues, and more. I'm Allie Diamond, and this is ThreatWire. App developer and security researcher Guillermo Rambo helped Apple discover and fix a new serious vulnerability related to Darwin notifications, a low-level inter-process communication mechanism in Apple's iOS operating systems. Darwin notifications are a legacy way to exchange messages between processes on iOS. No special privileges are needed to send or receive Darwin notifications, and no mechanism verifies the senders. They were available as a public API. Any process on iOS, including sandboxed apps, could send these notifications for basic updates and status changes. Despite very limited data that could be transferred, Rambo realized that Darwin notifications can interfere with system operations because certain components respond to them in ways that can disrupt normal device functionality. Using these notifications, Wi-Fi could be ignored, system gestures can be ignored, incorrect dynamic island statuses can be forced to be displayed. He found that a device can be bricked by entering a restore in progress mode, causing the device to reboot repeatedly. In his proof of concept, he created an iOS widget called Very Evil Notify that would effectively soft brick an iOS device requiring an erase and restore from backup. Using Darwin notifications and a tactical force crash of the widget, the bug would be triggered again and again, causing a denial of service on the device. The researcher disclosed the issue to Apple on June 26, 2024. Apple acknowledged the bug and fixed it in the release of iOS and iPadOS 18.3. And he was rewarded a $17,500 bug bounty. As a heads up, the FBI is looking for information about Salt Typhoon. Salt Typhoon has been wreaking havoc on American infrastructure for months. In October, both CISA and FBI confirmed that Salt Typhoon did in fact have access to major infrastructure and the systems of American telco providers. In a public service announcement, the FBI directly attributes the actions of Salt Typhoon to being a Chinese-sponsored threat actor. FBI is issuing this announcement to ask the public to report information about PRC-affiliated activity publicly tracked as Salt Typhoon and the compromise of multiple U.S. telecommunication companies, especially information about specific individuals behind the campaign. Investigation into these actors and their activity revealed a broad and significant cyber campaign to leverage access into these networks to target victims on a global scale. This activity resulted in the theft of call data logs, a limited number of private communications involving identified victims, and the copying of select information subject to court-ordered U.S. law enforcement requests. They're offering up to a $10 million reward for information. In cool tech news, Cloudflare has released their DDoS stats for 2024. Cloudflare dealt with 21.3 million DDoS attacks in 2024, a 358 year-over-year % increase. The first quarter of 2025 alone saw 20.5 million attacks. 16.8 million of these were network layer attacks, with 6.6 million directly targeting Cloudflare's infrastructure during an 18-day multi-vector campaign involving SYN floods, Mirai-based botnets, and SSDP amplification attacks. The frequency of hyper-volumetric attacks has also risen, with over 700 incidents exceeding 1 terabit per second or 1 billion packets per second in Q1 of 2025. Gaming servers have been particularly affected. A US-based hosting provider for games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive and Team Fortress 2 experienced a hyper-volumetric attack peaking at 1.5 billion packets per second, targeting point 27015. Additionally, Cloudflare's CEO Matthew Prince announced the mitigation of a record-breaking 5.8 terabits per second DDoS attack lasting approximately 45 seconds, surpassing the previous 5.6 Tbps. With the quieting of ransomware attacks on systems, DDoSing seems like the next logical step. So let's look alive, people. Good luck! 2025 is truly the year for the Linux desktop. PewDiePie just published an awesome video going through why he moved from Windows to Linux, so I imagine we're going to see a huge influx of users starting their Linux journey. But new Linux users, a new vulnerability has been found in the OS. A newly discovered security vulnerability in the Linux kernel interface allows rootkits to operate undetected, bypassing traditional security tools. Security researchers at ARMO developed a proof-of-concept rootkit named Curing to demonstrate this flaw. Introduced in Linux kernel version 5.1, IO_uring, or I'm going to call it IOUring, is designed for efficient asynchronous IO operations. It uses shared ring buffers between user space and the kernel to queue IO requests, reducing overhead compared to traditional system calls. However, most security tools focus on monitoring standard system calls and may overlook activities involving IOUring. This oversight creates a blind spot that attackers can exploit to execute arbitrary commands without triggering alerts from common security solutions. IOUring is a Linux-specific kernel API for asynchronous I/O. It allows the user to submit one or more I/O requests, which are processed asynchronously without blocking the calling process. IOUring gets its name from ring buffers, which are shared between user space and kernel space. This arrangement allows for efficient I/O while avoiding the overhead of copying buffers between them where possible. This interface makes IOUring different from other Unix-style I/O APIs, wherein rather than just communicating between kernel and user space with system calls, ring buffers are used as the primary mode of communication. Google has already taken action against the inherent risks of IOUring by disabling it by default on Android and Chrome OS builds. Despite improvements in newer kernel versions, such as limiting certain IOUring opcodes and memory handling, the interface remains a high-value target for attackers. At the time of publishing, there are no confirmed in-the-wild attacks using IOUring, so be careful. I just want to call out that I loved seeing PewDiePie's excitement for Linux. I personally use Mac as my daily driver, but have both a laptop that runs Linux and film through Wire using a Windows machine. So truly Hannah Montana, best of both worlds. But in his video, PewDiePie gave some great reasons to start being a full-time Linux user. But just know that you're going to have to put in a bit more work to maintain your OS and keep it up to date from vulnerabilities. Thank you so much for watching ThreatWire for the week of April 28th, 2025. If you want to support this show, please head over to patreon.com/ThreatWire. Two things. One, would people be interested in seeing me do reactions to other YouTubers' videos about cybersecurity news and topics? I reacted to PewDiePie's video live on stream and I had a lot of fun, and I think the audience really enjoyed it too. I was thinking about doing that over on the Patreon as a monthly bonus episode. Second thing, there is not going to be an episode of ThreatWire next week. This weekend, my event, the Net Gala, is happening. This is the second year I've done this event. Last year's was such a success that we had to do it again. And just as a side, thank you so much to Hack5 for sponsoring it and helping make it possible. If you want to find me online, you can find me everywhere at endingwithali. As per usual, good luck, have fun, and don't get caught.